Here's something interesting. Our task here is to assume that we have a file named as dictionary.txt, and it contains the objects of words, all right? So I'm just gonna go here, and I'm just gonna go here in the plus, and I'm gonna call this as dictionary.txt, and I'm gonna put some group of words. So let's get some words. Here are my group of words. So it's just like two words. We have one is run and the other is snooze, and these are separated by comma. So you can see this is the word, and then this is the meaning to it. So we could say to move quickly, and then we have snooze, and then the comma, the meaning is to put to sleep temporarily, and so on. So now we have this dictionary, and we're gonna have to try to create a program that will read the words from the file, and then it will display the meaning of the word, the respective word. So we're gonna use keys, we're gonna use values, and this structure is called a HashMap. So we're gonna use that, and we're gonna use file handling in Java. So assume that we have a file named as dictionary.txt, which contains the objects of words. Now the words class can have two attributes. It has a word name, and the other is the meaning. And we're gonna have to write the constructors and the getter setters of all of them, so everything of it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create another class which is gonna be called dictionary, and it has the following constraints. First, it will have the loadRecords method, and it will load all the records from the file to the HashMap. So we're going to use that structure to store our word meanings pairs. And then we're going to use findString that will accept input string as word name, and then it would console out and return the meaning of the word. That's what we actually want to do. And then to console back after searching from storage structure. Okay, now what we're going to do is implement a class driver and provide a full menu to demonstrate the execution of our program. So let's get started. So first of all, I'm gonna create my word class. So this is my driver class, and I don't need it right now. So before this, I'm gonna create my independent class. So let me get a little space here, and yeah. So now I'm gonna create my class words. So it has a word name and a meaning. So I could create public section. And in the public section, we have these attributes, right? So the first thing is the type, which is string, and it's the word name. So I could just say word name, and then we have meaning to the word. So both of them are defined. Normally, we could do something like this, which is preferred. So we could say public, string, and then meaning. So the better approach for this would be writing it in one line. So I'm just using it independently like that. And let's create a constructor, which is words. And what it does is that it has the string word name. So I'll say word name, and it has another string which is the meaning of the word. And what it does is that it will assign it using those getter setter, whatever we want to do. We just want to create a single constructor. It's going to be called a parameterized constructor. So I'm just going to label it as parameterized constructor, and let's just put this dot and the word name, which is in that public section, and we're going to get the word name from the input parameter. Similarly, that same thing to the meaning, and we're going to say meaning. Okay, cool. We're done with that. Now let's go and create our dictionary class. So we're done and exiting out this class. Now let's create our dictionary class. So we're going to say dictionary. So in the dictionary class, we're going to create a structure, and I told you that we're going to create something called a hash map. So a hash map is something that has a key and a value pair. So in Java, we could do something like this. First, we're going to have a public section, and we know that we have to create an attribute. So we're going to say first hash map, which is the structure, right? So we can say hash map, and then inside of this, we put the objects. So for instance, we have to put the reference types of string and words. So any objects could be associated inside. And then we have the name for it. I'm going to call it map. And I'm going to say new. And then I'm going to say hash map. And then I'm going to create that same thing. And then we're going to have this function and then close right there. So that's our hash map declaration. But right now it's not complete. So the thing I'm going to have to do before, you can see that there's some kind of red squigglies here, and it's the thing that we didn't properly import HashMap. So to import HashMap, we have to go on the top, and we have to say import java.util, which is the utility package, and we say HashMap. So HashMap semicolon. And when we're done with that, you can see that these red squigglies, this one's still appearing, but we're going to remove it using a string, and then we have the object as the value. The object is going to be the word because it contains both the word, the string of the word, and then also the meaning of it. So that's done. And then we have this portion here, and we could actually add in the same thing as string, and then we could have words, so as the object, sorry. Now the attributes are going to be inside of this. So we have three attributes. So now the methods we want from the dictionary class. The first method is called loadRecords. So initially what we have to do, we have that dictionary.txt file. So we're going to have to try to read the dictionary.txt file, and we're going to try to parse the file. So we're going to try to split it into pieces. And we're going to read the word name, and we're also going to read the meaning. And once we read the word name and meaning, we're going to try to put it inside of our hash map, meaning we're loading our text file. So we're loading our hash map, which is in our memory, with the meaning, words and meanings in a separate text file. So that's what our mechanism is. And then in the findWord, so that, first of all, let's do this first one, which is loadWord. So I'm going to create a method, and I'm going to create it publicly. So I'm going to say public, and I'm going to say void, and I'm going to say loadRecords. And we're going to have loadRecords, and this is the function, and there it is. So we're going to create a mechanism here. So before all of that, I actually need to include one more thing, which is called import java.io.asterisk. So as a brief summary, we have a dictionary class. Inside of that, we created a hash map publicly, and we called the key and the value. So the key was a string, and the value was an object, which is words. Words is over here in a class, and I know that it's a constructor which has its word name and meaning associated to it. So what we could do here is that we have to accept it, we put in a map, and we have a string words, and now we're going to have to load the record. So meaning that we have a text file individually separated somewhere in the computer, and we want to read that text file, and we want to parse it and put the meaning, word and meaning from the text file, which are these, into the hash map, which we define here in memory, and then basically load it. So how we're going to implement it is using a buffered reader. So I'm going to have to first define it, and then I'm going to use the file reader object as well. So I'm going to use the buffered reader, and I'm going to use the file reader. So yeah, so we're going to do buffered reader here, and I'm going to say br, and now inside is it's a new buffered, and I'm going to say reader, and I'm going to put inside of this file reader. So it's going to read a file, so it's a file reader, and basically this is new. We're creating a new one, and we're going to put the name of the file, which is dictionary.txt. Done with that, semicolon here. And what we're going to do now here is something really cool. We have our buffered reader, which has all the content, and we want to read it line by line. So we could use a for loop to do this. And we're going to say string line, and I could say br.read line, and this is going to read it line by line. And I'll say br not equal to null, meaning it's just going to keep on reading until you find the null pointer or whatever, end of file marker or whatever. So it's going to read until the file exits, or when the file is finished. There's no more content left to read. And we also need to traverse it using br, so br.read line. There you go. So it's just going to read line by line, and it's going to perform that action. Now one case here is that we want to do a throw here. So we're going to say throws, and we're going to say exception, because it's going to throw us an exception called some kind of exception. All right, so we're just going to throw it out, and the main, the driver class will deal with it. So here what we're going to do is, normally when we ever perform file handling, we get some exceptions, so we could throw them out using the throws keyword. And now inside of this for loop, I could read the line by line my text file. So over here we're going to start with the first line, which has run, comma, to move quickly, and then there's a \n, right? So we're going to read it. We're going to try to parse this and split it into two pieces. One, run, which is the word and the word name, and then the other is the meaning, which is to move quickly. So we could parse it using some kind of method called split. So we could say string, and we could say an array of string, and we could say something like parsed line. So PARSEDLINE, and inside of this we could say a line.split method, and we want to split it with the comma. Once we're done with that, we're going to create two new strings. We're going to say word name, and it's going to be parsed line subscript 0, which is the first index, and we're going to create another string, and this is going to be called the meaning, and this is going to be the parsed line subscript 1. When we read both of them individually, now what we could do is we could put this inside of an object and then put that object in our hash map. Because our hash map only accepts what we created here is words object, and it accepts the string. So we could not just put the word name and the meaning. We have to create an object. So we could create an object using the words class here, which is words, and instantiate an object, just say words, and then we say new, and we say words, and we could use the constructor. So the constructor, we could pass in the word name, which is the first index, and the meaning, which is the second index, and put a semicolon here. Now, once we're done with that, now we could put it inside of our hash map, which is map. So we could say this, which is the current hash map, and so this dot map dot put, which is a method defined for this hash map, and now we're gonna say the object, which is words, and the meaning, which is so the first portion here, if I look at the constructor, it's the word name. Yeah, so it's a string first. The first portion here is a string, and the second is the object. So we have to put the string inside first, and I'll say the first is the word name, and the next is the object, words, which is created. And this process is going to go until the file ends, and we could just have something over here called a close. So we could say BR, which is the buffer reader, and we could say close. Let's go, bye-bye. Now after creating our dictionary class, and then after creating our loadRecords method, which actually has to do with reading the file content, and then after that parsing it, and then individually putting it inside of our hash map, we're going to create another methodology which is going to be used to find words in our hash map. So let's go after this public void loadRecords. We're going to create another method, and this is going to be called findWord. So we're going to say public, and we're going to say string is the return type. We're going to say findWord, and we're going to use a string, and we're going to say the word. In this case, we're going to be going through our hash map and trying to find the word and printing out its meaning as well. So in a hash map, we have our object, and as well we have the word name. So what we could use here is a for loop to iterate our hash map. And we could say string I, since there are the keys, we're gonna be iterating through the key. If I look at the structure of a hash map, we're going through the keys. So the string, which is basically the word name, and the words is just the object. So we could say from the for each loop, we're gonna say string I for every word name from the map dot key set. So key set is that method which is going to be used to iterate all the keys, and we're going to say if that word, so we're using this find word which is going to be used to we're going to input a word and we're going to see if that word exists. So if it does, it's going to basically return the new word meaning, and if it doesn't, it will return something like something null or unnecessary something. So if I say if the word I input, because it's iterating through everything, so if that I dot equals, and we could put this inside a function, and we could say something like word. So this word, which is the input parameter here, if it equals to this I, which is the first key or the second key or the third key inside of our hash map, if they equal, so we could either use this statement or we could use something like, dot equals, like that. It means the same thing. So dot equals, And then we could say, inside of this, we could say words, and then we say new word. Now we created another object which is called new word, and we're gonna use the map.get, and we're gonna say the ith. So we're gonna put that word name and word meaning inside of this new word. We're gonna get it from our hash map, the index, and we're gonna return the new word dot meaning. And if this doesn't exist, and if it just goes throughout the whole loop and doesn't return anything, we could say return a null. So we did our load records, we did our find word, now we have to do our save records. It would use the buffered writer instead of the buffered reader, and it would create a word name, and it would create the word meaning, and we could use it to add more words and meanings to the thing. We could say public, and we could say void, and we could say save records, and we could say this, and we could say throws and exception, because we're using a buffer now again, so exception. And inside of this we're going to say buffered writer, and we say bw is equal to new buffered writer, and inside of this we put a new file writer. So file writer, and in this case we're going to have to create a new file, so we can say new dictionary.txt, put a semicolon right here, and we could say for, and we could iterate through this new this hash map and write down all of our words and all of our meanings inside of a new text file. So for string I map to the map dot key set, and we could say words w is equal to map dot get. So if we get the first portion, and we could just put that word inside of this, the object, it's just going to be associated to it. It's going to be called w. From our hash map, we're getting each of our keys, so we're going to put it inside of our object, which is w, and we're going to say buffered writer dot write, and this is going to write the word name. So we can say word name, access it, semicolon. And now we want the same pattern, you know, like what we had, the same standard of a colon, or a comma. So we're going to use a comma here. If we look at our dictionary.txt file, we have run comma to move quickly. So we want that same kind of sequence, the same kind of format. So bw.write, and we'd have word dot. Now we need the meaning, so we could say meaning, put a semicolon here, and we want a backslash n right after that. So we can say bw.write, and we say backslash n, semicolon, and we're done with that. Now we could just do bw.write. Now we say bw.close, then we'll save the record, and that's all what we have to do with the save records. It's going to save all of our content in our hash map inside of a text file called new dictionary. If it throws any exception, and then it would use this keyword, which is exception, and the driver class over here will have to deal with it. We're done with that, and we're basically going to go in our driver class, and I'm going to have to remove this hello world prompt, and over here I'm going to have to type in, so public static, instead of a class it has to be static here, my bad. Now we're going to create a dictionary object, so dictionary object, and we say new dictionary, and for this case it means that it will have a hash map inside of it. We're going to load, so we're going to say object.load records from the text file. Now it's going to load the records, the two words and meanings, and we're going to print them out. So over here you notice that there's some kind of error. So if we go and go on top of it, it says unhandled exception type exception. So after this static void main, so it's going to be throws exception. And now you can see that error is gone. Once we're done with that, we're going to have to find the word. We could use the find object, so we can say system.out.println, and we say object.findWord, and we have to give in our word name, so we could say find a word called run, because that's the first word in our file. And basically now it's in the memory by using this loadRecords. It's in our HashMap. And then we could use the saveRecords to save this new portion in our new text file. So it's just gonna it's gonna create a new text file called newdictionary.txt, and it's gonna have the exact same things, because run and snooze are two words and with their meanings, and the same thing will be appearing in our new text file. So we could say saveRecords and done. So done with this, and now let's run the code. I'm going to clear this, and I'm going to say java c driver.java. It's compiled successfully, driver class, and now you can see over here we have a main. Oh, so we got an issue over here. In our buffer reader loadRecords file, we had to create a line not equal to null, and I made a mistake here, line not equal to null. And once we're done with that, now it's supposed to work. So let's save it and compile it and run it. So you can see over here, to move quickly appeared on our terminal screen. So if we look at it, we have, this is the dictionary, a new dictionary.txt file. It has the same exact contents as the previous one. The program wrote this, and this is how it was done. So that was it with the video. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys very soon.